Aragoni, Dom Saltruda, Janice Parker, and Maureen Nicholson. Am I missing anyone else? And it would only be Sigrun Gadwa, which we haven't seen yet. And thank you. The meeting will be recorded and is being recorded. All right, item number 1, review of our meeting minutes from February 17th. Those were distributed via an email and a link from Ms. Heiberg. Did everybody have a chance to review them? We actually had a lot to discuss last week, and I'm looking forward to maybe continuing that. And I know we are going to get a little update from some of the tasks that we sort of left with and asked DCP staff to look into. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about that one. But any other comments on the meeting minutes? Dom?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Janice, did you have a chance? I don't want to rush you.
I'm reviewing it right now. It looks accurate.
Yeah, it actually, there was a lot of stuff that we talked about, so I want to give credit. That was a pretty good summary of the meeting. There was a lot of information in there. So Dom made the motion, Maureen seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Number 2, comments or concerns of any person present today. Joseph, I believe you may not have a comment. You're on the agenda a little bit later on. So if you have any comment, feel free to make it, or you can just sort of sit and.
Can I take the opportunity to introduce myself?
Of course you can.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board, State Board of Landscape Architects. My name is Joseph Subneski. My application for licensing is before you today. I earned my Bachelor of Science in Landscape Architecture from UConn in 2008. Prior to and following graduation, I spent 17 years operating a landscape construction business in Connecticut. Projects included residential landscape, athletics fields, drainage, and utility construction. From 2023 to 26, I worked in the design build division of Hoffman Landscapes, gaining practical experience with site plan development, applying for building and zoning permits, developing construction details, as-builts, and helping with project management. In 2025, I completed and passed the 4 LARE exams. And then earlier this year, I had the opportunity to become the Public Works Director for the town of Plymouth, Connecticut. In this role, I'm responsible for the stewardship of the town's infrastructure for the benefit of its residents. I've come into the position at a time of great opportunity and potential for the town. Some of the many highlights are the recent implementation of a multi-year bridge, drainage, and road reconstruction program. The town, as well as the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, is updating their regional and local plan of conservation developments. And there is a downtown transformation plan underway through the efforts of local stakeholders, professional consultants, and funding from the state community investment. It's an exciting time for me to be in this role. Throughout my career, I've remained committed to applying the principles of landscape architecture to promote thoughtful planning, environmental stewardship, and the protection of health, safety, and welfare. I thank you for your time and your consideration today, and I look forward to the opportunity of serving Connecticut as a licensed landscape architect. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Again, we're going to get specifically to your application when we get to it in the agenda, but thank you for giving us that very detailed background. And I think it's great personally that you're in a little bit of a different profession, but with the opportunity to represent potentially landscape architects moving forward. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? On the meeting, I didn't see anybody, so we will move on to item 3, DCP Investigation Division Complaint Status Report.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. For the time frame March 1st, 2026 through April 30th of 2026. The department did not receive any new complaints, and the investigator closed one of the existing complaints that he investigated because there was no action needed, no violation. The website contained no violation showing that there was any misuse of the term or that the person was engaging in any kind of landscape architecture. So he closed it. The complainant is anonymous, and I will tell you and your board, sir, when we get an anonymous complaint and they get a copy of it and we do the investigation, when we find nothing, it makes it a little difficult because we have nobody to go back to say, what specifically do you have? Was there a site? Are they working someplace? What additional documentation or evidence do you have to help us do a full boat investigation? So when he looked at, they were complaining about the website and something else, and he went through the entire website and got a response from the person named. There was no violations found. So that's where we are.
Okay,
Any questions, sir?
I think Janice does have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Richa. I can just say I haven't spoken to her recently, but Rosalie Asani worked for me, I'd say 15 years ago, if not more. She's very, at the time, and I'm sure she still is, very honorable, very aware of the fact she's not credentialed. She certainly was then. And I wouldn't just personally say that I don't think she would ever misrepresent herself.
Okay.
Again, I haven't spoken to her in quite a few years, but I mean, I think my relationship with her was long enough to know her well.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of comments I'll make on it. Addressing the anonymous, it's an ongoing issue, and it's kind of a catch-22. Most people don't want to turn each other in, so I kind of understand the anonymity, I guess you would call it, to that.
Mhm.
I empathize with you. It makes it very difficult to investigate.
Mhm.
I know I brought it up to one of the private ASLA membership advocacy committee that possibly they can be the conduit that if a person wants to file a complaint, it can be filed on behalf of the ASLA instead. It takes away some of the sting. On this one, I do have a little background information in terms of it was I think it was a lot of steam. I don't think she's doing anything wrong. There was a question on whether or not if she retains people that work underneath her as landscape architects, whether or not I think it's a registration issue, just registering as a design firm at that point in terms of what you do. But I agree with you. I don't think there's anything malicious going on here. I think there's just a leverage in terms of what we deal with on a case by case basis, project wise. If she had to have somebody that is a landscape architect in order to sign, seal, or certify plans for municipalities.
Yep. Board member Seltruda, this organization that you all belong to, that you could you forward that to Rochelle so she could send that to me so that in the future I can prepare the complaint center if the
Yep.
association was going to start
Yeah,
submitting
nobody.
complaints?
I don't think anyone wants to be that bad person. It's not about that. It's just about making sure that, you know, if no one wants to take up the torch, then we could probably use them as a vehicle. And there's some hesitation there because there's, rotating presidents that belong to companies, and it's not a personal thing. I know that the engineering firms have done so in the past, or the executive director can call it out. I'll use a likeness in Rhode Island whenever they have a question on RFPs. ACEC files the complaints on behalf of the engineering society. So I can work with them on that to say, hey, listen, if it's valid, they were aware of it and they didn't think there was any validity to it either. So there was kind of a
Okay.
catch-22.
Yeah, no, because for the occupational trades, a lot of the members belong to the Foundation for Fair Contracting,
Yep.
and they will file a complaint on behalf of their member associates for the unions.
Mhm.
So the foundation becomes the complainant, in essence. So,
Yep.
if they decide to do it, if you wouldn't mind letting Rochelle know, and she could let me know.
That's fine.
All right,
Great.
thank you, sir.
I think Maureen you had your hand up. Did you want to ask before? And then Janice, you got it. You got the floor next.
I have a quick question. I probably should know the answer, but how do people submit a complaint, or how do you submit an anonymous complaint?
You use the DCP website, www.dc .ct .gov/DCP. So they go to the DCP website and ct.gov/DCP. And when you go to the DCP website and the website comes up, it gives you headings on our webpage, and they would go to complaints and they would want to file it online. And when they go to the online complaint, now this is critical. Okay. You have to click in the box that says anonymous, because if you don't click in the box that says anonymous, it is going to pick up your email address and your information. So they have to click anonymous. The other key crucial piece for anonymous complaints, once you've let us know you're anonymous and we're investigating something, the anonymous person cannot start contacting DCP up, down, all around and saying, what are you doing with my complaint? What are you doing with my complaint? I demand to know. We have to say, I'm sorry. This is an anonymous complaint. Well, I filed it. Well, I'm sorry, but anonymous people don't exist. So if you want to come forward and you want to give us your first and last name, your email address, your physical address, and let us know you filed the complaint, we will gladly share information with you, ask questions while we're doing the investigation. Because once a complaint is closed, the anonymous person is more than welcome to file a Freedom of Information request to get all the documents regarding that particular investigation and what happened with it. So they can click on it, do it that way. They could snail mail a loose leaf sheet and whatever documentation they want to submit, and they can mail it to the DCP address at 450 Columbus Boulevard. Or they could also use the complaint center complaint form. But again, you have to leave the top section blank and you don't sign it. And the other thing is, you need to tailor the complaint so that there's nothing in it that would lead the respondent to know it's you. Like, we've had people say, I'm anonymous, but they came to my house and they did this on April 2nd, and they did a lousy job, and I paid them $4,000 and they won't come back to fix it, and blah, blah, blah. And I have pictures. Well, you didn't put your name, but I'm pretty sure that the heating and cooling contractor is going to know where he was on April 2nd and who did the work and who you are. So it needs to be generic, because if you're going to put that kind of information in there, we really need to know who you are and where you are, so that if we try to mediate a complaint on your behalf, and you're looking for money or you're alleging they're unlicensed, it helps us help you. So those are the avenues, but those are some of the drawbacks with some of the anonymous complaints I've had to review and assign lately.
Thank you for that answer. Janice, before you go, Rochelle, can we just make sure that in the meeting minutes, just because those are the things that get documented, we just make a little section that sort of describes how to make a complaint? I think that just the website and things like that, I think it would be good that we document that we talked about it. And it's just another place for it. So
Yeah, I can
Okay.
note that in the
thank you.
minutes.
All right,
Thank you,
Janice.
Mr. Chairman.
And I'll just add a sidebar on that. Like I said, it all came down to corporate practice of landscape architecture
Yeah.
and right now they are not in any sort of way in that bucket.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Just one question. Then even if someone files an anonymous complaint, are they giving actual reasons, or are they just calling in question that someone has called themselves a landscape architecture or architecture firm?
It goes both ways. Sometimes they will say, well, if you look at this website, and they'll put a link there, this is landscape architecture. Or sometimes they've done photoshops of pages they've found here, there, and every other where that this is landscape architecture. And sometimes it might be someone might be afraid to give more information, but they'll say they did this for me and this didn't work or that didn't work. But again, when they start going down away from that generic, hey, look at this website they're calling themselves, and now it gets into that they're giving it a little more personal information. Then when we send a letter and a copy of the complaint to the party complained about, they now kind of have a general idea of who's who and what's going on. And they will quickly respond to the investigator, stating that this is what it is, this is who it is, this is unfounded, and I demand that you delete this off of my record, blah, blah, blah. And we have to say, unfortunately, we can't do that. Complaints, once they're received, they're public record. And that's why we send a letter asking you to review it and to respond and to provide copies of your licensure and to address the allegations made. And as long as you respond to us and you address the allegations, and oh, by the way, here's my license, here's my corporate license, here's everything, all my ducks are in a row, and then we say thank you. And like as in this case, that there was no action necessary, no violations found, and the investigator will notify the party complained about that the file has been that we've closed the file for this reason. We also, if there was a named complainant, will also send a letter or an email notifying them that we've reviewed it, we find no violations, and it's been closed. And
Thank you.
know.
So that answers one of my questions, which was, if you, the person who's been complained about or the firm, do they get notified there's a complaint? And apparently they do.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say, just in my own experience over 40 years, people don't have any idea often, unfortunately, and we've talked about this, the difference. And so often if someone has an article written about them, they may name them a landscape architect and they are not. And it's not any fault of the, the firm, right? Suddenly they'll come out. I see it all the time where people who are not credentialed and do not say they are credentialed are called landscape architects in publications. So that's an inadvertent issue. But I will say that I have had, people, engineers and different professionals do check your credentials and let you know if they have any concerns I've found, or at least they have with me. And it's a good check for everybody that this stuff is publicly accessible. That's all I'll say. But however it happened, it sounds like you have a great system for handling it. So thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, and I would say that, as the board members present on this call, we do have the ability to be almost sort of stewards and get the word out on, this is the process because, I think I learn something new every time we talk about stuff. But yeah, we have the ability to do that too, to answer questions. It doesn't have to specifically be in a meeting, but you can sort of guide people to help them understand if they do have a question. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if somebody has a concern or a question, they can always send an email to the occupation professional mailbox, and we can answer it that way. They can always call the 800 number to ask questions about licensing and filing complaints.
And don't call 911 though. That's
No, definitely no.
So
That's
Dom,
that's
you're
a
going to
misuse
get
of that system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ASLA was approached on it, and I'm surprised that the complaint was actually filed, to be completely honest with you, because it comes down to education. We told them, yes, they are advertising that they want to hire a landscape architect / designer, and that's fine. And we just said it's education. Just make them aware that if they bring them on board, they can come on board, and as long as they're not practicing landscape architecture, if they're just doing landscape design. But they got tied up in the word, creative vision through basically the one of the skills is to operate within the commissions, and at that step, in terms of if they're going to be stamping things, they have to just be a corporate license, and that's fine. I mean, like you said, sometimes it's people don't even understand that they're in violation. It's education goes a long way, just to make sure, hey, listen, you've got it, you want to offer that service, you just have to jump through a couple more hoops and you'll be fine.
Yep.
So just to follow up, Dom, you're going to get contact information or something from
Yeah, well, it'll probably be
CTLSLA out to Rochelle.
it'll be our advocacy, or it'll be the advocate or the executive director. That's fine.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is all about education and getting the word out there. So the more ways we can get it, I mean, I probably can count on less than one finger how many times DCP investigations or any of that have had any interaction with CTLSLA or anything like that. Not that they would, but hey, let's put them in contact. Let's put advocacy in contact.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yep.
Great. All right. Anything else on that topic?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Hamill.
You're
thank
quite
you.
welcome, Mr. Chairman, and everybody have a wonderful, safe Memorial Day. Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4. I'm going to shift the agenda a little bit for old business, and seeing as how we have Mr. Grabowski here from the state, and we do have Sigrun Gadwa, who is looking to become a public member formally of our State Board of Landscape Architects. My first question is going to be, Sigrun, it's taken a little bit to get you at a meeting. So moving forward, I just want to confirm that you want to be a public member and take a public member spot on this board. And then maybe we can move forward with Mr. Grabowski and get you sworn in. But I got to ask you that question because it's taken a little bit of time to get you here. I know we're all busy, but these 4 times a year that we meet are pretty important.
And we would love to have you. Still.
Yes. Did I leave that out?
Yes, I would still love to be a member, public member.
Beautiful.
Great. So, Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to read the oath. If you could just raise your right hand. You do not have to repeat after me. Just raise your right hand, and then at the end you can say that you do. So do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as a member of the Connecticut Landscape Architecture Board to the best of your abilities, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. You're now sworn in as a member of the Connecticut Landscape Architecture Board. Welcome.
Congratulations and welcome.
Congratulations and welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
So Sigrun, I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of background again. I don't even know if you have had the chance, but if you want to give a minute or so, I think it's important for the rest of the board and staff to sort of get a little background on you.
Okay, so I am, I'm a professional wetland scientist, and I've been basically doing wetland science work since my assistantship at UConn in grad school on a big wetland mitigation project, and which involved a lot of ecological study of colonization and seedling and sapling survival of wetland plantings on the perimeters of DOT mitigation ponds. My master's was in plant ecology. I'd gotten a bachelor's 15 years earlier from Brown University, and I had my children and then went back to grad school. And I do a combination of, I'm also have been a member of the Connecticut Botanical Society since the 1990s when I was in graduate school. My supervisor for the mitigation project was Dr. Mike LaFour, who was a longstanding consultant for DOT on botanical matters, PhD botanist. And I'm currently still on the board of the Botanical Society, and I chair the conservation committee there, and am very interested in ecological integrity of landscapes and sustainability of native plantings, and having native plantings and the restorations be properly geared to the particular ecological conditions in an area, and also not depending on ongoing fertilization or watering or whatever. So I'm interested in the different special ecological communities in Connecticut, especially the ones that are rare and classified as critical habitats, like summits and rock outcrops, and the distinction between acidic summits, and the ones that are enriched with minerals, the trap rock and marble and shale, and also slope base, the beautiful spring ephemeral dominated slope-based communities, which reach their peak at the base of the minerotrophic geologic types, the trap mountains, the gabbro, the marble. And I'd love to see people using those communities as models, as reference communities, if they happen to have a lot at the base of a trap rock mountain, or even anywhere, if they're able to add the minerals that are needed for these plants to thrive. So I'm also concerned about invasives and knowledgeable about invasives. I do a lot of advising, and I also have read and researched. I could probably get my certification for pesticide application in 2 weeks, because I've read so much about herbicides and pesticides. I don't have it yet. I'm a little concerned about doing it routinely for health reasons, but invasives and when or when not to use herbicides are an interest of mine. And I do consulting as a sub-consultant usually for big cluster housing projects, apartment complexes, which often will have a wetland mitigation area, but also for private homeowners. And I do third-party reviews and advocacy work as well. And I usually collaborate with another consulting firm or another engineering firm. I kind of wait for the jobs to come in. I don't do marketing for my own little company, which is I formed it in 2001. carry ecological services. And I am a registered soil scientist, do delineations. I'm in my mid 70s now, so I don't do huge delineations. I don't have the strength to be out there all day long digging holes, but I know how to do it. And let's see, I also went through the NOFA course. I got certified as a NOFA a practitioner, ecologically sensitive landscaping, but I haven't done the follow-up renewal. Got interrupted by COVID, so that certification is not in place. The only certifications are wetland science and soils.
That's a great background, and we're very happy to have your diverse knowledge base. I think it adds to our board. You're gonna, sort of jump in as your first meeting. You're gonna see that we are a very procedural board. We really look at the aspects of health, safety, welfare, and making sure that landscape architects become landscape architects the right way and follow, all the protocols and requirements that are out there. But I think it'll take you a meeting or two to sort of see how we go. Our staff is great. I think it's been wonderful over the last year or two that we've had some consistency, and we get board reports early on that you can click on, link, and review. But yeah, it's going to take a little bit to sort of see how we operate. We don't get into the minutia of design or restoration or anything like that. We really are focused on landscape architecture licensure applicants, and making sure that requirements are fulfilled and procedures are followed. So thank you. Thanks for joining the meeting today, and we look forward to having you for the foreseeable future. All right, continuing on with old business. One item that's been on there that's going to remain on as old business is our Yukon landscape architectural visits. Although I would have loved to have gone up there this spring, I have been in contact with the staff, landscape architectural staff at Yukon. We didn't make it happen this spring, but we are going to get some dates for the fall because it was a really good visit the last time we went up last fall. We'll get it on the date during the summer so that we'll give everybody opportunity for our board, hopefully our full board, to get up there. It's usually just a morning. We sit in on their professional practice class. We get a tour of their updates. We meet some of the students, and it's just another way for us to educate what our board actually does and the importance of how our procedures and our regulations and statutes are. It's just another way to sort of educate potential future candidates for landscape architecture, which I think is one of our biggest issues, is how do we educate and make people understand what the processes are. So more to come on that one as far as a couple dates this fall. Again, old business, licensure process and statutory requirements discussion. We had a very good discussion, probably one of the best in my memory of being on the board, about where we are with our process and our requirements and how they don't exactly match. We're going to be faced with it again today with some of our applicants for licensure. Most of them, I think, actually. So we had a very long discussion, and staff did a great job at summarizing that. And I believe we may have some discussion on that topic today from staff. So I'll turn it back over to Rochelle or Marguerite or Paul, somebody.
So yeah, I can get us going.
Great.
I did get a summary from Rochelle of kind of the topics that were discussed last time, the lingering questions that you all have. So I'll dig into what I have here. First on my list, I have the discussion about the exam approval requirement that is in regulation and whether it's necessary that continue, that all these applicants come before the board before they are approved for the exam, or if that should be changed and how so. So, looking at it, and there was a question here about, why has that been the interpretation, or, what's the history behind this? It's very, very likely, and I can't speak to the history on it. I don't know when that first happened or how long ago that, came about. But I can say that the regulation itself, which is the 20-368-2A, does say that the applicant shall present to the board evidence. That's probably what the genesis was, that strong language around shall present that evidence. However, over time, right, the statutes have changed a bit, particularly in regards to oversight of licensing boards with members who are actively involved in the trade, because of a Supreme Court decision, North Carolina Dental, which requires more oversight by the state, which in turn resulted in updates to Chapter 416, which is the commissioner's chapter on powers. And some of the language there does say, specifically in Section 21A-8, that the commissioner does have the power, in consultation with each board or commission, which includes the architecture board, to exercise the functionings of licensing on behalf of those boards. So there is authority there for the department to do more. And however, I do think that regulation with that language should be changed if it is the board that wants DCP to do more with the licensing. I do think we should change that to say the board or the department, the commissioner, should be able to do this. But I do also believe that as the language is now in reading it with Chapter 416, the commissioner's powers, that there is more leeway for the department to do some of these reviews where there's not a question of the qualifications, right? They have the education, they have all those things, experience, and it's clear. Then the department should be able to process those applications without increased workload to the board, if that's what the board would like to do. That seemed to be what I was picking up through these notes in the minutes, is that there's some question there about whether or not you want to continue doing all of those. So, I mean, I'm happy it could stay the way it is. There's room to change it. It seemed like there was some question about changing it, so that is a possibility. So I'll turn over to you, Mark.
Yeah, let's take a time out right there. Thank you very much. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we had somebody look at it and comment on it. Dom Saltruda has sort of been our watchdog and probably the most knowledgeable and spent the most time reviewing things, which we greatly appreciate having him. I think the one thing, and you had to take your interpretation of, our meeting minutes and what came out of it. I would say that the board has, our biggest concern is that we get a ton of applicants that come to us with all the requirements. But there is a gray area that you noticed and noted, the word shall. You get your education, you get your experience, you shall come to the board prior to sitting for the exam. What my biggest concern as the chair, and I believe I echo the rest of the board, is we don't want to operate outside of a legal interpretation. So if we get the majority of our applicants come to us with all the requirements, the 3E pillars, what justification does our board have to say, well, you didn't come sit with us prior to getting your education and your experience and ask us if you can sit for the exam? It puts us in a very catch-22 precarious situation that we are not, I say we, I'll say me, as the chair, we want to license landscape architects that have the education, the experience, and the examination, but we also want to follow our laws and procedures. So that's sort of where we are. And I don't think the intent was, well, we need to change it and we need to eliminate the word shall. I don't think that was. I want to speak on behalf of the board. We had a nice discussion about it, and I think we were kind of split. I don't know if we want to change it, because we think it's important that we see the education and the experience and give our 2 cents on, yeah, you're ready to take the exam. But on the other, you put the other shoe on, if you're an applicant or a candidate, I meet the minimum requirements. I did all 3. So I see the argument both ways. I originally pushed the discussion because I want to make sure we're not functioning procedurally outside of our scope. And if it says shall, you know what I mean? It's really interesting. I'm so happy that we're talking about it.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they have to be here, on Teams or whatever, to present themselves in their case. I think that could easily be interpreted without a question that they provide the evidence. They've presented it in the form of their application materials, which you then have reviewed as a group at your meeting and make a decision on. That is a fine interpretation. So if
But
there's concern about
prior-
them actually being present at a meeting,
No.
I don't think there should be.
It's not present at a meeting, and I'll just speak on behalf of the board. It's not present at a meeting. It's even if they submit that material of their education and their experience, they submit it, through the website, through staff,
Yep.
and we have a chance to review it. That's really not happening either. What's happening is we're getting candidates that meet all the requirements and usually didn't submit anything, and it really doesn't. We would love to have people come talk to us and present their experience and education prior to sitting for the exam, but that doesn't happen usually. Every once in a while it will, and we get all excited and we have wonderful discussion. And I think very seldom, and maybe Rochelle can chime in, but very seldom do people submit materials before they take the exam either.
We've had a few, but not,
Yeah, a couple.
they're the exception. They're not the rule. And
Yeah,
I'll take it a step further,
ahead.
just so everyone on the call can understand. We just want to make sure we're playing by the rules. And it also is a little concerning in terms of we're looking at Connecticut specific, but we're also looking at a potential reciprocity issue across the board with our neighboring states, because some can be more watered down than us and some are more robust than us. And we're focused on Connecticut. However, we have seen candidates come through that can short circuit that process, haven't spent any time in the state, want to get licensed, and they know, okay, well, we can, and I'm not saying this is gospel, but we can apply through Connecticut because I don't have to wait X amount of time in order to fulfill the requirements in Connecticut. And then they can come in and get licensed here. And if someone does shine a light on that, there can be a reciprocity issue where we enjoy a robust reciprocity relationship with most of the states in our region and or country. So we just want to make sure that we're legally okay with it. And I'll use for instance, since he's here. We've been educating. The reason we're going to UConn, you heard earlier, is to try to tell them if you're if you're in the state of Connecticut, you're going to get your degree, you're an accredited, that's a path to licensure. We want you to take on, in terms of our interpretation, the 2 years under a licensed landscape architect, then you can sit for the exam. Nationally, they want them to be able to take the exam once they graduate. That's a whole different story. We're looking at what we have in fact now. And then what we have is they can graduate. Okay, the rotation graduate in May, they can start taking that exam in June. So by the time we get the information, and we have one today, where they graduated in 2023, it's 2026 now, but they started taking the exam in 2023, whereas we are interpreting it as they shall just report to us that they have their 2 years of experience prior to taking the exam. And that's that gray area that we're trying to work through for a decision on, well, how do we handle that? Because we've been struggling with that in the past.
I have a question. The climate is so different in different regions, even in northern New England versus Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
If I think that it really there may be questions as to if people have had their experience or their education in another part of the country. This is a gray area, and I think the judgment and feedback from an organization like this will help make the right decision. It's possible they should get 2 years experience in Connecticut before being licensed. If they
that's a fair comment, Sigrun.
Mhm.
And that's something that we can continue to discuss. What we've really been trying to figure out is we have a set of rules that we need to figure out if we're following right now correctly. That right now, that's not something that's in our discussion topics for today. I think that, hey, we can continue to discuss that, but we're trying to figure out how we can continue to operate, or do we need to make changes moving forward? So
Well, I
appreciate the
think that-
comment.
Yeah, with regard to the procedure, I think keeping the shall and having the option of weighing in into the future is very important.
Yeah.
There could be a situation where there were people in the department and that were less than honest, and we might checks and balances, basically for the sake of checks and balances. We wish we had better checks and balances now in the national arena, and we should keep the potential to exercise our checks and balances, but with that shall.
Yeah.
Not having taken part in the earlier discussions, I do feel that that's my opinion.
And I think that was kind of across the board. Is we didn't say, I wanted to make Paul understood that we didn't say we wanted to remove it. That was one of the discussions. Should we remove that? Or do we have the power to enforce it? Which I don't think we do. Nor do I want to even get into that side of things. Like I said, we're in the business of making sure we grant licensure to qualified applicants. So Paul, I don't know if you want to respond to anything that you've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does sound like the board needs to continue this discussion and figure out what it wants. And I think that there may be a need here to change the regulation. And I think that will depend on how you want this process to look. I can say a couple things. If it is this shall and they do have to present evidence, right? There's administrative issues with some of that, and the timing meeting only 4 times a year, right? That's kind of a consideration in some of this discussion as well. But, I think we're happy to work with you on regulations should they need to be updated and you have an idea of what you're looking for, right? But I'm also happy to talk more about the process so I can understand a little bit better about the history of what's been going on. So we can come up with the process.
Here's a question for you. So we have an applicant. This is a hypothetical, but actual real world situation. We have an applicant that comes to us with meeting their 3 requirements, including the exam, that we have not talked to, heard from, reviewed any information on their experience or their education prior to seeing their application for licensure in the state of Connecticut. Does this board run into any legal issues by approving that applicant? This is a hypothetical, approving that applicant, even though they did not submit information after they had their education and experience requirements and then took the exam. If we approve that applicant, do we run the risk of any liability, not following procedure because that word shall? Or is our interpretation of that word shall, it would have been really nice to see the information and meet the candidate and understand their education experience and give them feedback prior to sitting for the exam. I will find it very difficult to deny an applicant in our current situation that meets the 3 pillars of licensure. It's a really weird situation for us.
And Paul, we just want to make sure that we're interpreting and granting within the realm of what the state has provided for these applicants. And on that one, we didn't, it's the case. They graduated, they immediately started taking the exam prior to their 2 years experience. It ebbed and flowed from before to after the 2 years of experience when they were taking that exam. And now they're coming to us for licensure.
Yeah.
Let me look at something real quick here. I just want to make sure.
And again, this conversation is going to continue. So unfortunately, we would love to continue to having you on our agenda to straighten this out. But just while we have you, I'd love to get some type of.
And as he's researching that, I can give a quick update on the state level. The short session is over. You can look at it to what you want. I don't think they got a lot through this year that they wanted to. It was very picky. A couple of items of note for this board. Senate Bill 105 was voted down. That was that they were going to provide basically eliminate fees for DCP regulated professional licensures, including ours. Senate Bill 322 passed, and that is establishing the task force that is going to be studying occupational licensing. That's supposed to take place prior to the 2027 session. So there'll be a review that's going to be it's laid out pretty specifically in Senate Bill 322. I won't get into it now. And it does talk on our other item about filling voids on our board. I can tell you that ASLA is actively, they do still have some people that are going to be submitted. And likewise, obviously, we're remiss one lay individual, and we are the replacement for Phil on this board.
Mhm.
And that's an active pursuit that's going to be undertaken in the next several months.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. And I know we have Maggie on from licensing. So I don't know if Maggie can chime in real quick. Just a quick question. Do we approve? So when folks are going to take the exam, are we getting an application from them first or in licensing services before they're approved to sit for the exam? Or are they signing up for that independently of anything through DCP? Just because.
So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, we work with CLARB as the national organization who administers the exam. Yeah. And they've been notified repeatedly about us wanting to review before approval. CLARB is where the applicants go. So they look at it and let them sit for the exam. So basically, unless the applicant themselves are aware, if someone as an individual doesn't know that they're supposed to come to us first and they just go straight to CLARB, CLARB will let them sit for the exam. We're one of only 9 jurisdictions, it looks like, who require approval prior to sitting for the exam. So I think it's just a little bit unusual and something that we're trying to enforce more now. So it's just been kind of a gap in new and outdated information.
Okay. So I think there's I have spent some time looking at this, just trying to make sure, because, again, I don't do the licensing side of things all the time, and a process for all the 20 million different license types we have is different. But I think there's 2 sides to this thing. And one is, yes, they may not have submitted something prior and they've taken the exam, but at such time after, when you are seeing it, I think, Mark, you are in the right mindset that you're at a position where you really can't, they've met all the qualifications at that point, right? To deny them a license due to that misstep, I don't think you should. And I think you're okay to not do that. I think you're okay to approve them based on the fact that they've met the licensure qualifications. Now, I do think the statute should be changed around, or potentially, if you don't want to continue that practice, the statute, as far as that they shall submit the evidence, that can be adjusted if you want to. And if you don't, then what we need to do is work harder with CLARB to ensure that they are not approving these folks. But
so that's that's what I had. I said the only thing we can do, we want to continue the discussion, and this board's going to have to make a decision at some point on which way we want to go, so we can direct staff to say this is what we want to do as a board. But for the time being, thank you. That's really what I wanted to get you on the record saying is, I think you can go about reviewing the way you're reviewing and approving, and you're not stepping over procedures. Thank you for that. What I think we can do is we need to continue to educate. So I just made a couple notes over the last few days saying, maybe we can get a list of all the LA corporate license practices and send them a letter, because a lot of them are training our future candidates, and they're signing off saying, hey, by the way, this is how our statute is. It says shall, in a lot more technical terms. After you, educate and experience, after you give the experience and oversight of one of your employees, please direct them to the state board. That's one way that maybe we can do it. So we have the corporate licensure LA people. We know who they are, and we can send them a letter and let them know that. We can continue our Yukon outreach. We can continue to hammer on CTALSLA to be a partner in this one and letting people know. And then CLARB obviously is the big one. I don't know if we're going to be able to change them, but we can continue to beat on that door a little bit. So I think it is education until we make a decision on how we're going to do it. But thankfully, I'm a little more comfortable that as we approve candidates, even though it's not a perfect world scenario, we're operating within the bounds. So does any other board members have any questions for Paul?
So one of the
No,
things I'll say.
thank you very much for attending today.
Yeah, of course. So just to note that he did put in here feasibility of the biennial license renewal as well, which is something that is feasible. That it has to be a statutory change. And there's really there's no rest in between session and when we start drafting things for our package next year. So we would start drafting something in the next month or so, get it ready through summer. So if there is, that desire, I think you can let me know, and I could talk to our legislative liaison or legislative director here so we can start working on that. So it is, if we are going to be kind of opening up the chapter in that way, it is a consideration if there's any other changes that you would like to pursue. So
yeah, and just some of the rationale, and I mentioned that one. I think it assists. I know people might not want to spend a little more money for the 2 years, but I was looking at it that we could time it with the actual continuing education credit hours being due. So then it makes lowest common denominator, the dumbest person on the call, me. Okay, I know my license is coming due in 2026. I know I'm supposed to have all my CEUs done prior to that date. I think it helps with that ebb and flow because I think a lot of people sometimes get caught and they're like, oh, that's right, I got to have my dowers in, and they don't know if it's the on year or the off year because sometimes you get them all at once, and we want to make sure we have some luxury in that because I would hate to exclude someone because they haven't met their educational requirements. So there was a twofold on that one. Plus, it's easier. You're worrying about, for me personally, this is only me. I have to worry about every 2 years, not every year paying that bill. And I think there could be some justification. I'd be open to staff understanding that they don't have to handle it every single year. They have to handle it on the by years. It might be a lot easier. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's more complicated. Yeah,
it's something we've done in other license types recently where we've done the 2 years and we certainly make sure that it lines up with the continuing education. It's a much better process for everybody, licensees and the department.
Straw poll. This is not a formal vote. Maureen, Janice, and Sigrun, I know you're new to the game, but I think I know where Dominic falls on this one. But just a straw poll, it seems to make sense to me. Like I tried to shoot everything down that Dom brings up, but this one, this one I can't. It seems to make sense. Do you guys have any input on this one? Like, is this something we should think about pursuing? And we can discuss it more. I'm just curious. This would be 2-year renewal of licensure to balance off and match with our CEUs. It just, I don't know, it seems to make sense to me.
Makes sense to me.
Maureen? All right, so that should give you a good flavor on probably where we're going to go. We're going to discuss it at the end of the meeting because I do want to move this one along. But yeah, thank you for that. Paul, anything else that was on here that you looked at that you want to give us feedback on?
Sure. I did see there was a note here on municipal barriers to practice. How can the board address municipalities that do not recognize landscape architects for certain site designs? So what I've seen other boards do is draft a letter that can be sent to all municipal building officers or town clerk's offices that can come from the board. DCP administratively can send that out as long as there's no contradictions or legal issues with it. But that has been effective in certain other areas, including engineers and architects. So that's a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, we have done that in the past, and I think it's just going to be an annual thing that I don't think we can ignore, and I think we have to continue to do it. Because as municipal government and staff changes, the old guard, no offense, leaves. That's not an age discrimination. The people who have been in their position for a long time in municipal agencies sometimes move on, and there is an opportunity to potentially say, hey, just because the LA stamp wasn't taken, it should be. So maybe we can change. So I think it is an annual, it's back to that education thing. We just have to continue to educate people on, landscape architecture and the importance of it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Paul, for joining. We are going to invite you to our next meeting as well in August. If we do come up with a decision or something, we'll make sure to start thinking about potentially that biannual licensure as opposed to every year. So we'll let you know. But thank you again.
Last
Yeah,
question,
of
Paul.
course.
You would be, if we decide to open it up, you would be the one that's going to be shepherding at that point it through, or does it go through a different process? Because, knowing that next year is the long session and things can get tacked on even to what we're doing or can be interpreted differently. Is that something you shepherd through, or is it your
So
department?
something like
or-
this, yeah, something like this with licensure. Sometimes there are board members who are part of organizations who want to pursue some other legislation, but something like licensure, where it's a straightforward biennial change here, that would be something the department could potentially put in its legislative package, which would be something the department would shepherd through that process and work with our legislative liaison. And again, that's subject to approval of the commissioner and everybody else, but we'd get the ball rolling. Like a change like this is something we have done and would be doing again. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on. Item number 5, 5A is applications for licensing by written examination. Joseph has been on the call listening to a very, hopefully kind of interesting meeting. It's something that we've been batting around at the board for a while, and I'm actually glad that some other people are sort of watching and listening in, is that we're really trying to make sure we're doing things right. Streamline things where we can, but pay attention to things where we can as well. So if I could, I'd love to move Joseph Subneski's application up top, because he was here. He did give us a very nice sort of background on why he's here. Very interesting, by the way. I did say that. I love it. But did everybody have a chance to review Joe's application?
I'll start
And
off.
if you have any questions, he's here.
Yep, I did. I did review it. I have no questions. I'd recommend the candidate for licensure, and it can be more discussion. Just one aside, if you're still in touch with Brian at Hoffman, tell him I said hello. I served on the board for him for numerous years in ASLA. So
I will. I'll say hello.
That's great. Any other board members have any questions? So for Sigrun's sake, Sigrun, we range from, usually we have an application or two that we formally go through this way. If we have 1, 2, or 3, sometimes we put them in a group, and we'll comment on them individually. When we do have somebody that does attend a meeting, I like to call them out specifically and walk them through the process, because it is a big deal. Janice, what do you got?
I would just like to commend you. Can I call you Joseph, for
Yes.
sitting for your exams last year after a long and obviously good career. And you're obviously incredibly knowledgeable of the day-to-day nuts and bolts working of the actual work that landscape architecture does. And, as someone who sat for their exams a little past college years, I know it's not easy, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments.
and you fully
Yeah.
took the new revised exam, which is congratulations on
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Maureen?
Yep. Hi. I, as somebody who's in municipal government, I want to say I think it's terrific that you're in public works, because I think that's a very needed skill set that public works departments are in need of now more than ever. Speaking
Yeah, I
from
think-
experience.
Yeah, there's, I stepped into the role. There's so much going on, and I feel like the principles of my training apply to a lot of it. I'm looking forward to the career I've started here.
It really is great. And, now, I mean, one of the items that we touched upon was, believe it or not, there are municipalities in Connecticut that will not accept the landscape architectural stamp. Because we are allowed, to do site plans, incidental drainage. I mean, it's law and they ignore it. I know you won't, thankfully, because you understand
Yeah.
it, but there are several towns and sometimes our own Department of Transportation that we're still working on that will not accept that stamp. So with that said, do I have a motion to approve Joseph Nessie's application?
I made the motion, so moved.
I have a
I'll
second.
second it.
Maureen seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Congratulations, Joe. Welcome to the family.
Thank you very much. This is great. This has been a long time. Thank you.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Awesome. So you're welcome
Thank
to
you.
stay on the call. You're welcome to drop off. But again, thank you very much for joining.
All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, application Da Cruz. Marco Gomes Da Cruz.
Based on our earlier conversation on this call and based on the
Mhm.
fact that he has the hours and the education and has completed the exam, I see no reason why he can't be licensed in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion. I will make a motion that we approve Da Cruz application. Is there a second?
Yeah,
Maureen
I'll
se-
second- I'll second
Maur-
it, yeah.
Maureen seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ryan Manning, candidate.
I have a question. So I'm
Floor is yours.
looking through on their website where he works. It says he's licensed in Colorado and New York as a landscape architect. So I'm wondering why this wasn't a reciprocity of application.
Good catch.
Yeah, and I got in at 4 last night from a delayed flight from San Francisco, got 3 hours sleep, but I'm checking
see.
and taking names on this while we're talking.
That was a check right there to make sure people were watching it. We're actually reviewing it, Janice. Good job.
Well, so the CLARB record, you see that, right? The second after the exam details, it would be registration details. That's where any other state would be listed. So, yeah, is he actually licensed in those states? Because if he is, CLARB doesn't know about it, and he applied to us as an exam candidate, not a reciprocal one.
It just says it on the website. So
So
this has
It
got
sounds
a
like it might be an
branch.
issue for those states, but
Yeah, this has got a branch in Millbrook, but most of its work, his company, and he's a partner in
Yeah.
the company. So it was formed by 2 people, and he's one of them. And it seems to be mainly in Colorado and then in Millbrook.
Yeah, it seems like it may be a website issue or another state issue, but as far as the purview of this board, he passed the exam. Didn't come to us before his education and experience, but rightly so. None of us were on the board if he did come after he had his education and experience. So I think we can only look at what's in front of us. Unless somebody else has a different take on that.
Could one contact the entities in those 2 states and just make sure there were no serious issues or anything like
I
that?
think that's kind of the question I was going to bring up is why did he come through this way and not, first of all, he took the old exam 2009.
Correct.
And is there an issue with a board in New York or Colorado? In fact, that yes, we have to look at what's in front of us. However, Janice, good call, because he is
Yeah.
advertising that he's practicing in other states. And I'm going to note this in my low profile or my low hanging fruit category, because there are other states that when you apply, even, well, this is different. He circumvented it because he's not applying for reciprocity, that they have to have documentation from all the other states. And I think our licensed people are aware of that they have to get a letter from the states in which they're licensed. But this is an interesting one for Clarb as well, because like you said,
Yeah.
he never notified them that he's licensed in other states, or there's a lie on the website, or a misclaimer. Maybe they
Yeah,
copied and pasted something.
Well, they're
Kudos.
operating in New York State, so I would think that I'm not quite sure why it's applying for Connecticut, but they operate in New York, in Millbrook.
Regardless, I think it's, for us, it's an issue because is there an issue in Colorado that we're unaware of? And we're covering health, safety, and welfare in terms of granting a licensure. And this is where Mark gets mad at me, but I'd be more apt to ask some questions of this candidate prior to approval.
I think the avenue to asking questions and having staff reach out and ask questions, or potentially reach out to New York or Colorado staff and see if he actually is a licensed, or we can look at. I think the reason is, I don't know if he's going through the right procedure with DCP in Connecticut, because maybe he should be going through reciprocity, quite frankly. And we shouldn't, I think there's enough here to pause and say we need a little bit more information, because the application should have been licensed for reciprocity rather than new licensure. And I think we have every right to pause on this one and ask for more information.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious if he's still licensed in those other two states, if he were barred for any reason or had any.
That's the biggest question, right? I think that's the
Wouldn't he
question.
still be licensed though, would he?
But I'm not sure he's licensed.
Oh, okay.
To me, the most likely thing would be that he hadn't been keeping up with his fees and his CEUs. So he
Could be.
had been licensed and he didn't have any malpractice or anything, but the license is not quite valid currently.
Yeah.
That might be the situation. In which case we could certainly, there'd be no reason not to approve his application in Connecticut. You know,
I just checked.
if there were a procedural reason or administrative lack of fee paying or whatever, that he was no longer, but he should correct his website and take those licenses off it.
What'd you find, Maggie?
I checked New York's website and they do have him licensed starting in 2011 and he's current through 2028.
So isn't this more of a, hey, reach out to Mr. Manning and say,
Yeah.
I believe you should file for reciprocity rather than
Licensure.
first-time licensure, right?
I agree.
And that can be
Okay.
handled administratively through the staff.
Virtual
it's-
high
if it-
five to this board.
If it's
by
found
the
in
way.
order.
That was really good. That's what this board should be doing, is looking at those things. Maybe it is just a reciprocity application rather, but I'm glad we did that. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So we do not have to take action on that application. Rochelle and Maggie, you're fine on what we have to do?
Yes.
Great. Okay, Phil Pasco. I don't know how many, I can go on the record and saying he was reminded multiple times before he sat for the exam that he should come to the board. So that's why the education is going to take more than just conversations in the hallway. But again, has met all three criteria. So based upon the recent conversations we had, I will leave it up to review.
I just make a few observations.
Sure.
His supervisor, so we all know how big SLR Consulting is, and they don't actually list landscape architecture as one of their services, but they're global. And his supervisor, Michael Doherty, is the U.S. manager of landscape architecture, but no details whatsoever about what office he works in. And
So
there's no information about
yeah,
which office.
I can attest that Mike Doherty lives and works in Cheshire, Connecticut. So,
Oh, perfect.
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Fair
so that's great. That answers my question. So
Mhm.
he's been working directly under him. I could find no one else listed. And then obviously he must be employed in Cheshire, in the Cheshire office.
He
It
is
doesn't
correct.
say, but I'm assuming. Okay, then that was my only question. Big
Anyone
firm.
else?
I'd entertain a motion to approve it.
Second? Anyone? Janice, second.
Second.
All those in favor on the Pasco application,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We did number 4, Sapneski, and now we are on Yanan Wu. Yanan Wu. And
Just
Sigrun, I haven't checked in, but you've been able to open up these applications and look at them?
Briefly, I not as.
I just want to make
Can I
sure you,
should I abstain if I haven't looked at a particular application
no, I
thoroughly
think
enough?
as my question really was, are you able to open them and look at them now and just sort of follow along with some of the questions that we're looking at? It'll just give you a little bit of time, a little bit of more understanding on what we're focused on looking at and things like that. So,
And if there is one that you need to abstain on, I don't think that's a problem either. I've
Yeah.
had people that work for me come before the board and I abstain
Yeah.
from the vote.
Okay. So
so
the files were attached to this email, right?
there's a link in the
There's a
email
link.
that takes you right to the board documents.
Okay, so let me go to that.
okay. So I can just share a few thoughts on this. Barely making the 2 years of employment, right? So we have 5 months at Freeman, and then we have 1 year, 8 months at Freeman. So 2 different supervisors. And then
Yes.
unverifiable employment before that, 5 years on Scenic Hudson, which is, they're not, I mean, they're an organization. They're not a firm that does any work, right?
No, they're
Scenic-
not for profit, correct.
Right. So, so she just makes it by, really by a month.
Mhm.
That's the only thing that I see there. Otherwise, it looks like, I mean, she graduated a while ago, and
Yeah.
and she sounds or he sounds very competent.
And I know a little background. Dennis obviously no longer works with the firm. He's down. He's doing. He's actually the planner in the town of Montville now, and obviously Tristan took over for him. So there's no issue on that in terms of the supervision, and meets all. This is the black and white portion. It meets all the
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
All
I will
right,
make a
answers.
motion that we approve Wu
I'll
applicant.
second that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 But I do like us being critical and reviewing these. I
Yeah, I
that's
think it's great.
important. And Janet definitely gets the gold star for today. Because
Jet
that was-
lagged and exhausted.
I gotta put that.
Okay,
in my
those-
review.
that
When I'm
brings us-
full throttle, look out.
Yeah. You're gonna crash at about 1 o'clock today.
Yeah.
That's what I
Okay.
had to cite me.
Item 5B, again, nothing that this board has to take action on, but there are quite a few waivers through examination, which Mr. Manning may find himself on next time around. But you can feel free to look at where those applicants are coming from. More for Sigrun's point, New Jersey, Florida, New York, Virginia, New Jersey, Maine, and Maryland. And then item 5C, again, nothing that this board has to take action on, but it's very interesting to always see. Sometimes we don't have any, and you will see some familiar names in there. But this is applications for corporate practice of landscape architecture. You can see there are 3 on there. 2 predominantly engineering firms, multidiscipline, and then 1 LA firm. Okay, moving
Why
on
are
to
they li-
item
why are they
5D.
listed- Question
What's
on
up?
that. Why are they listed 1, 2, and then JPC? Is that just a typo? That should be number 3.
No, that's a joint practice that's allowed to do landscape architecture as well.
So the first 2 are independent?
They're just landscape architecture firms.
It's just how they're how they're,
Yeah,
how
how
they're
they're filing it.
legally, yeah, legal entity,
Okay.
yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item 5D, I don't know if this group of board members have had one of these before. I know we
We've
have
had
had
one.
it.
I've
Yeah,
had
on the
one.
board, yeah. So, this is a continuing education, request due to, basically a medical waiver. So the information, is all included, in your docket. And, the nice thing about this one is sometimes, medical, records or, doctor's notes aren't included, and it makes us sort of read the narrative that's the written and lead us to either ask more questions or just go with the answer. This one actually supplied more information. So if everybody had a chance to look at it and make any comments on it.
I do have one comment, and they were very, very forthcoming in their information. I just want to make sure that we have some sensitivity to their medical piece that was brought to us, and I don't know how
Correct.
DCP handles that, if it just goes to us or if it's going to go out into the public realm or
Sure.
not. I do think they were very forthcoming, and I don't see any point of not extending their continuation because they came to us, and it's not an after the fact type of thing, which is what we usually get.
She's the daughter of the principal and has been licensed for a long time.
Yeah.
And has grown up in the industry, so I don't see any
Yeah.
problem.
I don't know if Maggie or Rochelle want to answer Dom's question just about privacy.
So it's technically this record is public record because it's in the meeting, but if anyone were to like FOI, all of that information would be redacted. If there's anything, there is no like
Yes.
a lot
I
of
don't think-
PII wasn't really in there so there's not really anything redacted, but this wouldn't be the waiver itself may be shared if it were to FOI'd, but the
Yeah.
actual documentation that was provided with that would stay within,
Just
it would not be public information.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure we're
Yeah.
we're keeping things as private as we can. Obviously, she had to apply, and I applaud her for providing the justification. I didn't read
Yeah.
through all of it. All I saw that it came from a surgeon. That's
Yep.
good enough for me. I'm not
So-
a doctor.
So technically, do we grant like a year extension? How does the waiver, what's the details on the waiver extension? I guess that's the
She's
staff.
asking for 1 year.
So 1 year.
That's what she's asking for.
Yes,
Okay.
so they
I must have missed that.
really seen a 1 year extension, but again, it's up to the board's decision if you want to provide the 1 year extension. There's also the option to waive the requirements for this year. So it's up to you guys, up to your choice.
Well, that changes things. I would make a recommendation in that respect that she does get granted the 1 year extension. Obviously, she has to take care of the stuff that comes within that year as well. So it's playing catch up.
Yeah.
But I would open for discussion if we want a waiver on anything. I didn't know that was even an option.
She's just requesting an extension.
Yep. I would err toward just granting the extension that she requested.
Oh, I'll make that recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second.
We'll let Janice second that. All those in favor of granting the extension?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Okay. Item 6, correspondence. We have any correspondence? Other than what was discussed today? I don't think we did.
There's nothing in the notes.
See,
Okay.
I have a contemplated correspondence for the August meeting. There are two more academic environmental groups, the Wild Ones and the Connecticut Botanical Society, have developed position papers on nativars and outcrossing and inbreeding and outbreeding depression issues, threats from landscaping with nativars in close proximity to critical habitats, that kind of thing. They're contemplating sending a letter to, I guess they should probably send it both to the main landscape architecture school at UConn and to you guys.
I would say I'll just speak for myself. Because of our procedures and our charter as a board, I would think it would probably be better suited for ASLA and definitely University of Connecticut, like Dom, the Connecticut chapter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd be happy to get the information, but I just don't know exactly what we can do with it.
So
Probably
maybe it should be an FYI for you,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely
Yeah.
to UConn, definitely
Yeah,
UConn, because
and-
they're the ones that are moving towards the actual engagement of that type of factor, which is good.
Yeah, well, they have some people on staff that are
Yeah.
developing the nativars, and I know the positions of the citizens boards in this field are that the context is extremely important, and in an urban area without any nearby sensitive critical habitats, it really doesn't matter if you plant nativars that could cause genetic harm if they interbred with.
You're preaching to the choir. Not everything.
Yeah.
Not everything is a square peg.
Context is what's
Yep.
important.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay, good.
With that said, I'll bring up that Senate Bill 414 made it out of committee. It was a unanimous vote. It died in the Senate this year. It will be come back in 2027. That is the UConn-based vegetative management guidelines for the Department of Transportation. Something to keep an eye on, just as a heads up, FYI, for this board. But that's working its way through, and they're trying to push that, and it's going to do a whole relook at the vegetation management along the corridors that are maintained or stewarded by Department of Transportation. And I know DOT kind of took a back seat to it, but it's being fostered through multiple private organizations and obviously the University of Connecticut. So something to take a look at if you have time.
Okay.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Yep.
Eversort, the utility right of ways, vegetation management is also a major issue.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of did 6 and 7 comments, correspondence.
Sorry.
No, that's it. It's fine. What I'd like to do is just because we're running a little bit late on time, and I have another meeting to jump to, but I would like to put on our agenda for our August meeting to make a determination on whether a formal determination on whether we want to move toward a
Statutory revision.
biannual. Yeah.
Oh, biannual. Yep,
a
that's statutory
biannual,
revision.
or a potential revision to work on that word shall. Because if you're going to dive into something and change something, we might as well figure out what we want to do and do it kind of all at once, because you don't want to keep opening up the book and closing the book.
No. And I will chime in a little bit on that, because there are some other factors that the society may want input on, and we don't have to, because we're looking at it purely as this board. I will let you guys in on one of the ones is looking at, if you're going to open, basically once you open it once, you don't want to open it again. So there was some discussion and advocacy about an emeritus status for landscape architects in the state as well. There are some reviews being performed in terms of looking at other licensure disciplines. And then I will have you know that this year, obviously, we are under that review for licensure that's going to be supposedly completed before legislative session 2027. So if I hear anything, I will make everybody aware.
Right. And if we ever needed to, have a meeting. You know, we've never had to have a special meeting or anything like that, Dom, but as we get into I'm not even going to bring up the word that we
Yes.
put on this legislative review. But if we ever had to have a meeting, if you felt like what you're hearing or anybody else on the board as far as where we're going with review and legislative review and threats to licensure and stuff, we've never had to do it, but you know, we all have each other's contact information and we can definitely push to see if that's something that we need to do. But I would like to keep it on as a formal agenda item. You know, staff did such a good job with the action items in our minutes of last meeting that I almost want to keep them on there and just sort of make them discussion topics. Pursuing statutory or regulatory changes, it's really around that word shall. We did get good guidance, but I'd like to continue to invite Paul or somebody to the calls.
Yep.
And then formally put that discussion on biannual renewal to coincide with CEUs. And potential decision might be the right words to put on our agenda because you don't know what's going to happen between now and then. But at least that'll force us to look at it. And then everybody think about it over the next, you know, summer when you're having your margaritas on Saturday afternoon. Think about those things so that our meetings, we can continue to be as productive. Because I got to tell you, the last couple of meetings have been great as far as what we've talked about. And now we have Sigrun on board finally, which is great. And then hopefully CTSL will continue to push on another public member and another licensed member. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Full meeting. Thank you very much. I think we did a good job. Maureen?
Thank you so much.
Thank
everybody.
you. I've got to
great.
jump off to another meeting also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Aye.
we are adjourned at 11:04.
Everybody
Thank you very
have a
much. See you
great
in
end
August.
of May.
You as
Thank
well.
you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.